So we're going to enter into a time of meditation. I've got some words for us to ponder as we go in. Rabbi Abraham Heschel said, "Awe is the beginning of wisdom." We need to slow down and take time and notice if we are really to respond to the world with awe. There's many ways that we can do this. We can go out into nature, the cathedral of the forest, or the living yoga mat of the tidal flats, because I know you all live by the sea. But we can drop into that deeper way of seeing that recognizes awe when we come together in prayer and silence. So I invite us now to drop into meditation. Invite you to notice the room that you're in, possibly with your eyes closed. The temperature of the air on your skin, the ground beneath you, the chair that you're sitting in, the sounds of the room, and the sound of my voice talking to you through your phone or your computer. I invite you to drop deep into this place and time. And to place your hand on your heart. This helps us bring our awareness to our heart center. And now use your breath to stretch wide the heart, as if making room for a deeper wisdom to step forth from within, that universe that lives inside you, according to Rumi. And we try and slow down our thoughts. We can't make thinking go away, and we're not trying to make thinking go away, but we're trying to be very present in our bodies while we think, and thinking slowly, listening deeply to the wisdom inside us. Maya Angelou said, "If you must look back, do so forgivingly. If you must look forward, do so prayerfully. However, the wisest thing you can do is be present in the present, gratefully." And we pause in gratitude. And in this place of quiet, all the others on the Zoom gathered around us are strengthening our prayer, adding beauty to our silence. I invite you to bring to mind the people and situations that you want to pray for this day. Perhaps it's for yourself, for this world, for your loved ones, for the creatures, the earth itself. We draw our prayers deep into our heart, into a cave of quiet. We hold them before God, asking for transformation and healing and wholeness. Loving God, in your mercy, receive our prayers. Bring healing where there is none. Bring light to the darkest places. Bring love where it is missing. We ask for a blessing upon all in our community, whether they're here on the Zoom or not. And knowing that our prayers are answered, we say thank you. I have a song for us now. There's an intro that I will sing, and then you'll hear those words repeated often. Why have made within my own body a garden for you to enter. My love is old, born in the winter, frozen, reflecting the sun. When the winter unwinds, I come undone. Yes, I have made within my own body a garden for you to enter. Oh, I have made within my own body a garden for you to enter. Oh, I have made within my own body a garden for you to enter. Yes, I have made within my own body a garden for you to enter. Oh, I have made within my own body a garden for you to enter. One more time. Oh, I have made within my own body a garden for you to enter. Await the greening of the springtime. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about thresholds, because I believe they are one of the ways in which we can prepare ourselves to be this vessel for God to consciously flow through. So a few days ago, I got up from the sofa over there and walked through to the kitchen to do something. But once I arrived in the other room, I couldn't remember what it was that I'd come to do. So I traced my steps and went back to the living room and magically suddenly remembered what the thing was. It was as if my thought had been hanging out on the sofa by the fire while I busied myself. Now, people often call these senior moments, but I am middle-aged, so this is not a senior moment, and I think I've done this ever since I was a child. And in my friend's book, this is called The Soul's Slow Ripening. And it's written by my friend Christine, and her husband writes little reflections in it. And he writes about exactly this. Let me find it. He says that when this happens, it's probably a normal brain functioning, and people have been scientifically studying this. When we walk across a threshold, a door, or another barrier of some kind, our subconscious minds recognize that we are going from one environment or space to another. So our brains do a quick short-term memory dump in order to free up more active cerebral computing space, so we can become more quickly adapted to our new environment. He writes, "You aren't losing your mind when this happens. It's an evolutionary adaptation that allowed your ancestors to survive and for you to be here now." I'm going to talk a lot about thresholds today, but I just wanted to start and say that thresholds are very, very normal. They affect us, whether or not we're embracing them as a spiritual practice or not. They are more than just doorways. Thresholds, boundaries, they're liminal spaces between things, and they're sacred to the Celts. There are places or moments in time where the distance between heaven and earth is tissue thin. Now, the great Celtic scholar John O'Donoghue, that we're going to hear from later, he describes a threshold this way. He says, "A threshold isn't simply a boundary, it's rather a frontier that divides two different territories, rhythms, and atmospheres." Thresholds are like the sunrise, or they're that golden hour that happens just before twilight when the colours are so vivid and otherworldly. Thresholds hold both beauty and magic in them, but they also allow us to escape, or maybe transcend is the right word, our dualistic this or that way of thinking in words. Now, the living world is completely full of thresholds. For example, marshes that are land and water, or volcanoes that are fire and earth. Thresholds are in the matter of the earth and in us are real. And if I think about this in human terms, right now I'm meeting with my nephew who lives here in Vermont, maybe once a month, and every time I meet him, he's 16, he is transforming before my eyes. It's very beautiful to behold the man emerging from the boy. It's a really profound reminder to me at 46 to show up for him, remembering that I am different every time. That there is a continual unfolding in me. That I bring my past and my memories into the future which is forming now. I believe that if we attend to thresholds as a spiritual practice, we can get a little glimpse into the workings of God in our lives. So my great big teacher of God is Mother Earth and the natural world. And if we look at the seasons, they unfold slowly enough, just slowly enough that we experience them as static. A human life can seem like a blink of an eye, but really God gives us wee doses of eternity in one life. So I did a little Google search, and I'm going to give you this thing so you can, I'll pop it in the chat. It's a website that's called a converter. And I put in 3rd of September 1975 to now, and it told me that that was 16,930 days. 16,930 sunrises. 99.8 of which I have slept through. Isn't that a metaphor for life? How many holy moments that are happening silently all around us we do not attend to, or we sleep through, or even worse, ignore. I thought about this because in the last few weeks of his life, my friend Warren, well, it's probably months actually, last few months of his life, Warren always took time each day to be with the sunset and the falling dark. I noticed that I didn't. Thresholds like nightfall are gifts to us because they allow us to wake up and transcend linear time by dropping into the immediacy and timelessness of this world which is continually spinning, unfolding, pouring out. But we get so used to the world the way it is, we don't really see it clearly. Or perhaps it's more true to say we just see it in part. We stop seeing things. I was thinking about the fact that a 3-year-old gets so excited when they see a bus or a train, and a 7-year-old gets really excited when they go on an airplane for the first time. But it doesn't stop in childhood. I'm watching the wonder of my she's younger than that, 13-year-old niece, who's getting ready to perform the lead in a play. Wow, the excitement and wonder of that. Or as an adult, the gift of holding your child for the first time. Or as a grandparent, teaching your grandchild to fish. All these moments in time can and will become very normal for us after a while, which is probably in some ways the way it's meant to be. Otherwise, nobody would ever get on a bus if the bus driver responded like a 3-year-old child with their enthusiasm, and there would be a lot more accidents. It's part of us learning the ways of the world, but there's a switch to awe that can get switched off. And if we pause and notice the thresholds all around us, they can help us switch that awe switch back on. And what more, thresholds help us make sense of our humanity, sense of our life. The holy days of the year and our cultural holidays help us with this. When Christmas or New Year comes, we weave into that moment all the past New Years and Christmases that came before. Now this can be beautiful, and we can help weave into ourselves the child and the young adult that we once were. And it can be harrowing and painful because it reminds us yet again, perhaps 12 years later, what that first Christmas without him or her was like. Thresholds can help us weave ourselves to be more fully human. And there's much more to a threshold than just an identity, memory, or experience in time. Attending to thresholds opens us up to transformation and our becoming. I'm going to share an audio clip now as an example of what I'm talking about. It's an excerpt from this book, which is To Bless the Space Between Us by John O'Donoghue. And he has a whole chapter of blessings for thresholds, and he has a little introduction to each chapter, and here's a section of his introduction on thresholds.
Within the grip of winter, it's almost impossible to imagine the spring. The grey, perished landscape is shorn of colour, and everywhere you look only bleakness meets the eye. Yet in truth, beneath the surface of winter, the miracle of spring is already in preparation. The cold is relenting, seeds are waking up, and colours are beginning to imagine how they will return. Then, imperceptibly, somewhere one bud opens, and the symphony of renewal is no longer reversible. From the black heart of winter, a miraculous, breathing plenitude of colour emerges. The beginning of spring nearly always catches us unawares. It is there before we see it, and then we can look nowhere without seeing it. Change arrives in nature when time has ripened. There are no jagged transitions or crude discontinuities. This accounts for the sureness with which one season succeeds another. It is as though they were moving forward in a rhythm set from within a continuum. At a human level, to change is one of the great dreams of every heart. To change the limitations, the sameness, the banality, or the pain. But for humans, change seems to be terribly difficult. Often we opt to continue the old pattern rather than risking the danger of something different. Like spring, secretly at work within the heart of winter, below the surface of our lives too, huge changes are secretly in fermentation, and we never suspect a thing.
ended that by saying, below the surface of our lives, I think it was just huge changes are secretly in fermentation, and we never suspect a thing. Most interesting. What is this the season for? In our lives? Perhaps in yourself you're in the same season as the natural world around you, which is probably winter if you're in the northern hemisphere. But maybe you're not. Maybe you're experiencing within your own life a blossoming of spring or the sun of summer. What is the season of your life right now? And also, what's going on in the wider world? What is the season for our collective lives? I've got a reading for us. This one's from Jeremiah, talks of thresholds. So this is from the Jewish Bible. This is what God says. Stand at the threshold and look. Ask for the ancient paths. Ask where the good way is, and walk in it, and you will find rest for your souls. But you said, we will not walk it. Now, in this book, the same one that I quoted John from earlier, this is John Walter's Painter, different John. He says that this passage here is happening because the Israelites are at a very dangerous threshold. The way back is barred, and they have to move forward because they're being pursued by enemies. And I thought this was interesting because it reminded me of these dangerous times that we're in. And specifically, I was thinking about the crossroads that we're at in terms of climate collapse and catastrophes. There's been a lot of them in the last year. It feels like there's multiple dead ends before us and various paths, and that we're needing to get off the road that we're on, the road where power and wealth are held by few individuals and corporations, where consumerism is part of how we live. And meanwhile, fractions are arising as we try and walk forward, trying to find unity as a planet, even though we're still very diverse and different. We're very interconnected, but a diverse species at the same time. And this is quite literally coming to a head with COVID. It's an interesting threshold that we are in. And Jeremiah's words really reminded me that we are standing at a threshold. One of the things to do at a threshold is to pause and ask for blessing and to attend to the holiness that is also standing there, perhaps invisibly at your side. I'd like to tell you about where my whole sermon came from today. It came from the space that I'm sitting in, which up until Epiphany had a very large Christmas tree in it. And perhaps you can see from the paint swatches on the wall that I've just moved into this house. It was my first Christmas in a house. I've never owned a house before. It's a very... well, maybe the house owns me. The house owns me. That's what we say in Scotland about land. You can't own the land owns you. But we don't have a lot of furniture. So taking down the Christmas tree, it became really obvious that there was a giant space that it was leaving in our living room. And I found it quite unsettling. And I stood in this enormous space that I'm sitting in now and thought about Epiphany in 2022 and realized that I need to pause and rest in this threshold because I didn't know what to make sense of Epiphany on the 2021 Noel. What is Epiphany even? Anyway, so just in case you're not part of the Christian tradition, it is the date that marks the arrival of the Magi, the wise men that we know about and the wise women that were not recorded in history. For me, Epiphany is about awakening to an understanding that Emmanuel, God among us, is already here. The baby has been born regardless of whether the Magi find this stable or not. And here we are, Epiphany, connected with the 2021st Noel. And it made me realize that last year was so enormous that perhaps it needs an extra month. Either way, as we get ready to enter into 2022, we don't know what is going to unfold. And there is a great deal going on in the world. So I thought I'd find some wisdom for us around that as we stand on this holy and tender threshold. So if I go back to this book, my friend Christine, she's the main author, and somebody I get to work with a lot, she talks about statio, which is a monastic practice that monks do, to do with ending one thing, having a gap, and starting another. It's about attending to the space between things. And she's sharing some monastic wisdom because she's an oblate, a Benedictine oblate. When we pause between activities or spaces or moments in our day, we open ourselves to the possibility of discovering new kinds of presence in the dark and the in-between times. When we rush from one thing to another, we skim over the surface of life, losing the sacred attentiveness that brings forth revelations in the most ordinary moments. Statio, this pausing between things, calls us to a sense of reverence for slowness, for mindfulness, and for the fertile dark space between our goals where we can pause and center ourselves and listen. We can open up a space within for God to work. Thresholds. I'd like to show you this. It's one of my holy objects. Now, if you get up really close, you'll see it's rusty and battered. It is my lantern that I leave outside my front door, hence the fact that it's so faded. A long time ago, it was darker than my jumper. And I've got the Christ light lit in there right now, and it's the one that I use in ceremony on the winter solstice. Now, the reason I bring this up is because a long time ago, well, wasn't that long ago, when I took my vows as an interfaith minister, I came up with this prayer to help me. And it goes like this. I normally sing it, but I'm just going to speak it today. Over and over again, I will open the door to my heart, and upon this threshold, I will place the light that you gave to me. Over and over again, I will open the door to my heart, and upon this threshold, I will place the light that you gave to me. And we need this light that is given to us, that helps us see a way forward when we are in a threshold, when we are standing at a crossroads and we can't go back. And none of us, I think, would want to go back into 2021. But here we are, anxiously waiting to see what will happen. To close, I've got a little bit more wisdom from John O'Donoghue. He says, a threshold needn't be a threat, but rather an invitation, a promise. Whatever comes, the great sacrament of life will remain faithful to us, blessing us always with visible signs of invisible grace. Blessing us always with visible signs of invisible grace. We merely need to trust. Amen. And I got a cracker of a song to follow up from this. It's called Unknown Blessings, and it's written by my friend Ben Buckner, and it's an absolute favourite of your Unity cousin, Unity of Port Townsend. And it's got a sing-along part. And I don't think I've shared this one with you before. Here's the part that you're welcome to sing along with. And they're already on their way, already on their way. Give thanks for unknown blessings, already on their way, already on their way, already on their way. Give thanks for unknown blessings, already on their way. Oh, the stars above us twinkle, yeah, they put on quite a show. They say the light that meets our eyes today was born 1,000,000 years ago. And this spells out quite a story. And strands of DNA, the same spark that birthed the universe, is born in us today. And they're already on their way, already on their way. Give thanks for unknown blessings, already on their way, already on their way, already on their way. Give thanks for unknown blessings, already on their way. Now this world is a funhouse mirror. Sometimes you feel just like a clown. Everything's distorted, everything seems upside down, and the truth, it gets twisted, like a rope gets torn and frayed, till you feel like you can't hold on no more, like you just might slip away. And they're already on their way, already on their way. Give thanks for unknown blessings, already on their way, already on their way, already on their way. Give thanks for unknown blessings, already on their way. Well, now history's a spiral. Sometimes it's hard to see through the smoke and the blood and the tear gas that it's a path of victory. It's a crooked road we walk upon, strung with miracles upon the way, and like raindrops to the ocean, we'll make it home someday. And we're already on our way, already on our way. Give thanks for unknown blessings, already on their way, already on their way, already on their way. Give thanks for unknown blessings, already on their way.